This video is powered by the pros at Pascal Air Plumbing and Electric. Arkansas owned, Arkansas operated. GoPascal.com.
He's been a guy that we've relied on to make end-of-shot clock plays or end-of-game shots. He's a high field goal attempt player for us. He led us tonight in field goals attempted, and he can create his own shot. You know, the hardest thing in basketball is when the play breaks down, do you have enough players that can create your own shot? And Ricky is one guy in particular that does a great job of creating his own shot.
25 points for Ricky Council, but only 4 of them in the first half. So he's certainly the go-to guy in the second half as we visit with Bob Holt. Hi, Bob. That was a great basketball game last night. Took a little bit of time for the team to get going, but once they did, they got going and picked up a big win. What'd you think of that one yesterday?
That was a high-level game. I mean, Missouri came in playing very well. They'd beaten Illinois and Kentucky pretty soundly, and we're on a good roll. They've really turned their roster over. The new coach, Dennis Gates, Kobe Brown's maybe the only name that people would remember from last year. They brought a ton of transfers, and they really, they obviously jumped out to a big lead and played well. And even when Arkansas seemed to have control of the game in the second half, Missouri wouldn't die or go away. So I thought it was a high-level game. And, yeah, you got to give the Hogs a lot of credit. Down 17. Weren't playing very well, weren't shooting well, were turning the ball over too much, but they made a good run there at the end of the first half to get back in it, and then obviously had a really great second half.
Need a zone buster on this team, right? I mean, is it that simple to say that inserting Joseph Pinion in this game and the fact that he knocked down a couple of threes, I know Ricky led them in scoring, but man, that the defense got a little bit softer for Mizzou once Pinion started knocking down some shots.
Oh, yeah, that was huge. I mean, Joseph, he's definitely their best three-point shooter. I mean, you look at, obviously they missed, Trevor Brazile and Nick Smith for a lot of things, but those would be two of the better three-point shooters right now if they were healthy and playing. And so, so Joseph had a huge role, and Eric, turned to him, and he delivered really right away with, some threes. I think he finished 3 of 6. He had a rebound basket. I thought he played pretty solid defense. No doubt putting him in the game is when they got going at the end of the half, which, I think they had an 8-0 run to end the half to cut it to 7. And that got them in position where they got off to a good start in the second half. Yeah, and then he started, Eric started Joseph in the second half, had Ricky on the bench, because Ricky had struggled so much. They have a plus-minus deal on the box score. Like, here's what, the team was when this player in particular was on the court. And Arkansas, unbelievably, when you consider how good Ricky is and how good he's been this year, Arkansas was minus 18 in the first half when Ricky was on the court. He wasn't shooting well. He had some turnovers. And so Eric sat him down, and credit to Ricky, he handled it well. And when he got in, he really played at a high level like he has most of the year. And Joseph Pinion was a huge factor in that game without a doubt.
Yeah, you got to have somebody out there to stretch the defense that then allows the guards to get in behind. I thought Kamani Johnson might have had his best game in a while. Just efficient, played big, played physical, and Makai played as well. Both those guys played big. What were your thoughts on our big guys?
Yeah, Makai got in foul trouble in the first half, had 2 fouls. And Eric pretty much has a hard and fast rule. If you get 2 fouls in the first half, you're coming out of the game. Maybe if things would get out of hand, he might put a key guy back, like if it's an Anthony Black or somebody like that. But, yeah, Makai was very efficient. I think he ended up playing only 15 minutes, but I think he had 8 points and 6 boards. I don't have the box in front of me.
Yeah, he had 8 points. He had 7 rebounds. And then Kamani had 8 rebounds and 6 points, but was 2 of 2 shooting. They were both. I thought they both played about as good as what you could get out of our bigs.
Yeah, Kamani, the way the energy he brought, he always brings the energy.
Yes, sir.
If you look, I think on the season he's got more offensive rebounds than defensive rebounds. I think he had 3 last night.
Yes.
He kept some balls alive, and Kamani and he drew a big charge from Kobe Brown. They got Kobe Brown didn't foul out, but he had 4 fouls. He had 11 points. You're talking about a guy that scored 61 combined the last 2 games against Illinois and Kentucky. He had, I think, 31 against Illinois, 30 against Kentucky. So he had 11 last night, so not a bad game. But Arkansas, and last year they did a pretty decent job on Kobe Brown in their 2 games. And so, but yeah, Kamani really brought the energy. He's always good on the offensive boards, but did a good job rebounding. And Jordan Walsh got in some foul trouble, unfortunately for him in Arkansas. But I thought he did a good job. Devo had some kind of, honestly, just some bad passes, but he had 10 points, 5 assists, 5 rebounds, 3 steals. So he played really good defense on Hodge, who's averaging over 16 points. He only scored 6. Eric made a point to praise Devo's defense, and yeah, it was a real good team effort. Obviously, Ricky and Joseph stand out, but they had really 7, maybe 8 guys that played really, really well. And because when you're down 17 against the team that's playing well, Missouri, people may not want to admit this, but I think Missouri's a pretty good team. They're ranked 20th. I think they'll be a handful when Arkansas goes to Columbia in a couple of weeks. But I thought that was a really good win for Arkansas. Anytime you're down 17, obviously it's easier to come back at home, but Arkansas has proven to be a second-half team under Eric. They came back from 13 down against a real good San Diego State team out in Hawaii and won an OT. So it's a team that's showing that, if they get down, they can certainly have the ability to come back.
Well, they were a lot quicker getting the ball up in the second half. That was a point of emphasis. And Joseph Pinion started the second half. It's like I think he played maybe about half the amount of minutes that he had played for the entire season in yesterday's game. He played nearly 27 and a half minutes. I think he'd only played like in the 50 total range for the first 12 games of the season. So, we saw in freshman years, Jalen Williams and Devo Davis sat full games at times in the non-conference schedule. They didn't get into the full rotation until you were already into the SEC. I guess we should sort of expect. I don't know if we'll see Pinion play 27 minutes a game, but I doubt he's going to be sitting every game now.
No, I think he's definitely earned more playing time. I think he's earned the coach's trust, coaching staff's trust. I think he's earned his teammates' trust. I don't mean like, the players don't trust everybody on the team, but I think when a guy comes in and delivers like Joseph did, and, it's clutch. I mean, Arkansas needed some offense. They needed some perimeter shooting. Like you guys said, his shooting helped soften up that defense some. And because Arkansas was really, really struggling against Missouri's set zone, just trying to move the ball around, but not really we're having trouble penetrating it, and just weren't hitting the threes. And Anthony Black can be a pretty good 3-point shooter, but he wasn't really on. Jordan Walsh can be, but Joseph, without a doubt, is their best shooter. I think the best perimeter shooter. And, he's like I say, he had a tough offensive rebound in there. And
he's a freshman. We forget how young he is. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and he's 6'5". He's not, 5'10" or something. So he's got some size. And you just think about, I'm not saying he was lacking confidence before. He was obviously a high-level player. People forget, people want to focus on Anthony Black and Nick Smith and Jordan Walsh being McDonald's All-Americans, and I get that in 5 stars, but Joseph was a top 100 player. I mean, you think about all the high school players that are in the country. If you're in the top 100, and Darian Ford was for that matter, and so Arkansas and Barry Dunning Jr. and those guys may get their time to shine too. But you have to feel like Joseph, that was a huge boost for his confidence. He had a good game against North Carolina Asheville before Christmas, and that's nice. But, man, it's a whole lot different when you do it in an SEC game, especially when your team's down 17 and you're a big part of the comeback. So, I expect Joseph to keep getting more minutes because he obviously earned them last night.
He's going to make a lot of shots for the Razorbacks because he's going to be here for another couple of years. So he's going to be fun to watch and watch him grow. And like you said, Darian Ford, too, I think he's going to make a lot of big plays, too. It's just weird now seeing all these freshmen out there growing up quick.
Yeah, and it's nice to get the one-and-done guys like what you assume, the McDonald's All-American guys we talked about were, but it's also nice to have players like Joseph Pinion who you feel like are going to be, in your program for a while and develop and grow and especially I think it's great when it's in-state kids.
It's kind of interesting because, in college basketball, you look at kids that are talented enough to maybe go to the NBA after 1 year in Nick Smith, in Anthony Black, maybe a Jordan Walsh. We've seen Moses do that. And every once in a while, we kind of forget a little bit about the guys that might be around the program for an extra 2 or 3 years, like a Joseph Pinion, like a Darian Ford. I mean, this is the way Arkansas basketball had been built for years previously. We're just not used to the one-and-dones very often. It's happened less than a handful of times.
And I like that mix, Phil, because it gives those young kids somebody to look up to. So when they're here being sophomores and juniors and you have those one-and-dones, they look at somebody who's doing it the right way. So I think that's how Muss's teams kind of had the most success.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you look at a guy like Devo Davis. He's a junior, and I would imagine he'd play here next year too. And he's a guy that's a really elite defensive player, and he can get in the score. He hit the basket that gave him the lead for good on a really nice reverse layup. I think it put him ahead 43-42. And Devo.
He's so athletic. Yeah, he's so.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The one thing I don't get about Devo is he always starts off at a headband, and then somewhere either late in the first half or the second half, he doesn't wear it anymore. I remember asking about it last year. I guess maybe he just wants to change it up a little bit. But, yeah, I mean, it's like I say, in this day and age, you got to have some of the elite, lottery-type pick players if you're going to compete for a national title. I think that's there may be some mid-majors that just have, like, a bunch of seniors that can make a run to the Sweet 16 or something. Or, you look at VCU a few years ago and Butler getting the Final Fours and stuff. So it's
that
doable.
Missouri team, Bob, that Missouri team's going to be a tough out in whoever their matchup is. Those little guards, they've all played a lot of college basketball and they can all shoot it. Man, you mess up against them just like they had Arkansas down 17. They can do that to anybody.
Oh, yeah, I think they've got 4 fifth-year guys. And we're not talking about guys at redshirt. I'm talking about guys that are playing their 5th season of college basketball. Those transfers from Cleveland State, and one of them's from Clemson. I think they've got 8 or 9 transfers. I mean, Dennis Gates did a good job. You think Eric does a good job in the portal, and he does. And maybe Arkansas got some higher-level guys. But, yeah, Dennis Gates, he brought some guys from Cleveland State that obviously know his system, kind of like what LSU did with bringing some guys like Justice Hill and Williams from Murray State. They're guys that knew his system, were used to winning. I think they've got 8 or 9 transfers. They started. Kobe Brown was the only guy who started who was not a transfer, and they bring in guys off the bench that are transfers. The guy Sean East that I didn't know that much about, he scored 13. Mizzou's his 4th school. He's kind of like that quarterback, Daniels. He came from a JUCO, but he'd been at 2 4-year colleges. I can't remember where all he's been, but that's just kind of the way college athletics are now. Yeah, Missouri's got a good roster. They don't have a lot of size. Their one weakness is rebound, and Arkansas really hammered them on the boards. But yeah, they can shoot the ball. They came in averaging 88 points so far. Arkansas home to 68, 20 points under their average. And they shot 44%, which isn't bad, but they came in shooting over 51, leading the league in shooting. And and they had, I think they averaged over 12 steals. So they're a team that's got, they're not the biggest team in the world. Obviously, Kobe Brown's a good post player, but he can hit threes. But they shoot the threes real well. They defend pretty well. They're pretty pesky. And like I said, that's going to be a very tough game at Columbia. I don't see Missouri losing a whole lot of home games, if any this season.
Bob, we'll leave it there. We're up against the break, so we'll talk with you next week. Thanks for your time, as always.
Okay, sounds good. You guys take care.
Thanks, Bob.
Bob Holt, Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. I think Arkansas yesterday defended the 3 very, very well. Mizzou averages 10 3-pointers per game. They finished with 6. They didn't even take the amount of 3-pointers they usually like to take. Arkansas kind of took a lot of that away from them, with the exception of 1 or 2 players that I think they were just fine shooting that 3.
We play some defense, Phil. I love watching this Razorback basketball team. You know that we're going to make it tough on them to score, and we got to remember those kids are on scholarship too. They're going to make a couple plays, but I love our defensive intensity.
BetOnline remains your number one source for all your sports betting this season. Everything from the NFL and bowl season to esports. You'll find the latest odds, team matchup info, player news, and game trends at BetOnline. BetOnline features live betting, free contests, and live scores for almost any sport or game imaginable. We're the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite leagues and events. Head to betonline.ag to join and receive a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Make sure to use the promo code BELIEVE to receive your rewards. That's BLEAV. BetOnline, where the game starts.